What's happening, fight fans? John Ramdeen here with you for Fight News Now Extra. The verbal war continues between the two headliners for UFC 158. If you're on TRT, you might be too old to be in the UFC. Dana White shares his thoughts on GSP's stance on the media. And surprise, surprise, another high-profile fight is off due to an injury. So let's do this. GSP and Nick Diaz have exchanged verbal jabs leading up to Saturday night's main event, and it's gotten particularly heated around the topic of steroid use. The Stockton native recently appeared on the Fan 590 with Tim and Sid and stated, quote, "I believe that he's on plenty of steroids, and I don't believe they've tested him." Mention of performance-enhancing drugs at Thursday's press conference lit a fire under the champ, and here's how that went down.
Do you really think I'm afraid of you?
No, that's fine. Okay, no, I don't.
You think I'm afraid of you, man? Are you crazy in your head, man? I'm not scared of you. You'll see Saturday if I'm scared of you.
All right. I'm intimidating, right? That's my plan, to intimidate you out. Okay. I don't believe that the world champion is afraid of me.
I don't
believe the world champion is afraid of anything.
I'm not on steroid, man.
I don't think that. I don't think you're scared of anybody, bro. I don't. We'll see if they test who for steroids or what.
I hope they do.
Okay.
I hope they do.
Yeah. You hope they do. What? For me to test positive for steroids ain't gonna happen.
Dana White's war on TRT usage continues. The UFC president has been very vocal about not being a fan of fighters who use testosterone replacement therapy. Following the UFC 158 press conference in Montreal, the boss stated that he aims to convince the athletic commissions to change their stance on the substance.
TRT is legal. I told you guys that I don't like it. There's people out there that are cheating on it. And I'm going to do everything I can to start lobbying against TRT and see if we can get the athletic commissions to change their position on it. And like I said before, if you have to use TRT, you're probably too old to be fighting. You shouldn't be fighting.
I despise talking to the media. That's a statement that we've heard over and over again this week from 170-pound champion George St-Pierre. While this might be taken out of context by some fans and even members of the media, Uncle Dana has come to the aid of the welterweight Golden Boy to defend his position.
After all the years, that stuff starts to wear on you, you know, and you know, these guys are under a lot of pressure all the time, and this fight has George different, just weird, different, you know what I mean? You've heard George say things he's never, you uneducated fool, and you know, I'm going to give you the, whether he wants to admit it or not, he said that. I'm going to give you the worst beating you've ever had in the UFC. He said, you know, people don't understand how dark I am sometimes, and you know, now everybody's asking him about that, and you can tell it's aggravating him, and he doesn't want to talk about that.
Team Alpha Male product Chad Mendes seems to have the worst luck with opponents. It appears that Mendes versus Guida is now off of UFC on Fox 7. Guida has suffered an undisclosed injury and will not appear on the card. However, SureDog.com has reported that Mendes will still compete on the April 20th show in San Jose, but a substitute opponent has not yet been announced. So Uncle Dana comes to the defense of George St-Pierre, defending him about the whole media situation. And I'm very surprised about this because we've heard George St-Pierre in the past say, you know what, the golf ball is in the air, all the hard work is done, now I just have to focus on Saturday night. Well, isn't this a good distraction from the thoughts that are going through your head before a guy violently punches you in the face?
Maybe, except they keep asking him about all the stressy, annoying stuff. And hey man, I don't think I'm any better than most of these guys, but have you checked out some of the MMA media? You know, you got your good ones out there, your Ariel Helwani's talking to him, your John Pollocks, your Joe Ferraros. There's some good ones, but there's also some weird dudes who crawled out of their parents' basement who want to ask the same questions over and over again. And you're about to face Nick Diaz, and these guys keep asking you, what did you think he meant? And why did you call him a fool? And man, he just probably wants to get his mind off it.
And the problem is, though, you're talking to a casual fan base who they don't hear everything that George St-Pierre says. So, right, for them, this is the guy that they want to talk to. And I'm sure George has heard these same questions over and over again. But he knows that it comes with the territory, and you just have to play the game. But every time you see this guy, he's got a scowl on his face, and he's pissed off every time the fans ask him, tell us about your opponent, Nick Diaz. And I just don't know if it's fair to the media or to the fans.
Well, your point makes total sense, man. I mean, seriously, as much as, yes, it's these odd trolls that pop up from MMA John's exciting MMA show.net, you know, are asking him these questions, it is still his job. His job is to go out, like the Mayweathers do, like Dana said, and yes, you're being asked the same question, but you're being asked it by a guy from Cleveland and a guy from England and a guy from a website and all these different people who all have fans, your fans, people who love George St-Pierre who want to hear these answers. But, you know, he's under stress. He's probably cutting 25 pounds over 3 days. He's got this guy in his ear who is driving him nuts. We've never seen him like this. After this fight, whatever happens, I think we'll see the old George St-Pierre back where he'll be a little easier to be around.
Going into this fight, we all expected it, George St-Pierre to be the hero, Nick Diaz to be the villain. However, do you think that fans are starting to jump on the Nick Diaz bandwagon and that he's going to get a lot of momentum even if he loses this fight?
For sure, man. And I think that's probably stressing George out to some degree, too. The whole thing, you know, we got to talk to Tito Ortiz, and I wanted to really ask him about the pressure that you get by being the bad guy. But George, you know, the whole script is thrown. George is kind of not quite the only good guys. People are going to, even in Montreal, they're going to cheer for Nick Diaz because he's so fascinating and he's so real and he's so visceral. And this whole thing, I think George is going to be very excited to have this thing done.
I agree, and more fight news now when we continue, so do not change that channel.